We all know how Snow White's story ends. After the evil queen gives her the poisoned apple, the prince kisses her awake and the two ride off into the sunset. But what if I told you that that isn't what happened? What if I told you that Snow White never actually woke up and the prince, well, that he wasn't a prince after all? Hey everyone, this is Ritika. Welcome back to my channel. I recently rewatched the 1937 classic Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and I have been thinking a lot about its ending, particularly how the prince saves the princess and they get to live happily ever after. I personally feel like there's a lot to unpack here despite the obvious ending. Hence, I'm making this video. I hope you watch it till the end. Then also like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Don't forget to comment what you thought. I would love to hear your thoughts, and if there's anything specific that you want to talk about, then I'd love to know that too. Thank you so much for watching. Now, let's get on with it. In this movie, the evil queen curses Snow White with the help of a poisoned apple, as she does in most other versions as well. Dressed as a peddler woman, she goes to the dwarf's cottage and tells her that the apple has magical powers, which it does, of course, just not the kind Snow White had hoped for. As we find out previously in the film, the apple is cursed with sleeping death, a curse that puts her into a coma like sleep, making everyone think that she's actually dead. So, after defeating the evil queen's peddler disguise, when the seven dwarfs find her, they immediately assume she's no more. However, because of her immense beauty, they decide not to bury her, but rather encase her in a glass coffin and also stand vigil at the side. Until at least 2 seasons later, the prince, who had been wandering alone in the forest looking for her, finds her and kisses her awake. Now, what happens in the film is that once he kisses her, Snow White awakens, thanks the dwarfs, and then goes with the prince to join him in his castle. However, when I rewatched the movie, there were a few things that stuck out to me which made me think that that's possibly not all that happened. The first thing that made me doubt it was the position of the castle itself. When the prince is taking his horse away, we see a castle appear in the clouds. Now, that's not really a place where a castle would be, is it? Granted, yes, they're trying to portray that the couple has a long distance to go before they reach home, but still, why at the clouds? Why not just make it near a mountain or over the sea or something like that? It's not like they have specific instructions to portray a particular geography, do they? And this is all animation, so everything is a conscious decision here. Then I went back and rewatched those few scenes because there's gotta be something there, right? And here's something else I noticed. Ever since he kisses her awake, Snow White only opens her eyes once. For all the time that the dwarves and the animals are dancing and that she's kissing them, she has her eyes closed. Again, animation, so definitely a conscious decision. But why would the creators consciously keep her eyes closed? Unless it's not actually Snow White going to live in a distant castle, but Snow White going to ascend into heaven. Here's what I think happened, that instead of awakening her, the kiss actually solidified her death. Ergo, the prince gave her the kiss of death. I know that doesn't sound optimistic, but hear me out. The ending, I presume, specifically the scene where she's kissing all the dwarves, is when her soul is actually bidding them goodbye. After all, think about it. If you were cursed into sleeping forever and then you were cured, wouldn't you take a moment to piece together everything that happened, wondering how such a traumatic event could have transpired? Wouldn't you eat something or even have a cup of tea perhaps? She had been stuck in a sleeping curse for over 2 seasons. At the very least, I mean. While her body is alive, it's also still very much dead in that all the bodily functions have not really been happening. She would need food and water to survive, right? But none of that happens. In fact, she doesn't even sit and talk with the dwarves and hear about all that happened or tell them how she ended up cursed in the first place. No, she just kisses them and leaves. No communication whatsoever. If this was a normal human being, wouldn't she be more receptive towards them? And sure, Snow White was just a kid, she didn't really know any better. But the prince and the dwarves, they should have taken this into account, right? They were definitely older. But okay, that's maybe too much semantics. Let's just focus on the curse for now. In the Evil Queen's Book of Curses, I don't really know what the book is called, so I'm just gonna call it that if it's okay. Anyway, in that book, the entry under Sleeping Death says that the victim's eyes will be closed forever in sleeping death. So, what I presume that means is that her soul will be stuck in a limbo like state where she is neither completely alive nor completely dead. It doesn't define the amount of time the person will be stuck here. And I know this sounds like I'm stretching it out a lot, but I personally think it would only be a matter of time before the Grim Reaper comes for her because eventually something is bound to happen, right? And no, I do not mean true love's first kiss. I really don't. Because from where I stand, I don't think what the prince and Snow White share is even true love. They knew each other for what, less than 5 minutes? They can't possibly fall in love that soon, right? Granted, yes, it is the 30s, so who knows? But still, even by those standards, that's a little too much too fast, isn't it? Which is why I believe his presence at the end is yet another symbol of death. Kind of like a human incarnation of the Grim Reaper. We know from folklore that the Grim Reaper often visits in different forms. It can be a banshee, or a dog, or a skeleton under a cloak, or even a normal breathing human being. Given all the evidence I have accumulated so far in this video, I think it is he who visits her to give her the kiss of death, waking her from this limbo like state and guiding her to the afterlife. Hence, the castle in the clouds. That the Grim Reaper often appears in a form acceptable to the soul he's taking away is probably why he's dressed as the prince she encountered earlier on in her life. We also know from stories that people on deathbeds try to make their transition to the afterlife easier by thinking about good moments in their past. Since Snow White's life was full of servitude and labor, the prince's image was probably the closest thing she had to some positive release. The final piece of evidence that I have for all of this is that the prince, who has been wandering the forest for at least 2 whole seasons, does not have any person of military accompanying him. Yes, he did not have one of those around earlier as well, but he was in a private meeting with Snow White earlier. Here, he's literally traveling to a distant country. Wouldn't his guards be around him? Wouldn't there be someone with him? For safety, you know? But no, he is all alone. In that way, then, happy ever after that the story promises is not exactly the one we had been thinking of until recently. Perhaps there's more to it. A darker and more sinister version of it, maybe. One where the princess never actually survives and only manages to find her own bliss in death. I understand that this is probably me overthinking stuff, and that given that this was the first animated movie they made, the creators did the best they could, especially since this was a children's film that not everyone would think too much about. They couldn't predict YouTube, of course. But I do think that there is some semblance of reality in this darker analysis of it, and that over time, even the creators got on with the idea. I mean, we have direct to video sequels of almost all the hit animated films, and this one was particularly famous with legit Oscars to its name. Wouldn't that have warranted a sequel or even a mini series? We never exactly see her living as a queen like we see Cinderella, and we never meet her kid like we see Ariel's from The Little Mermaid. There's nothing here. So it just makes me question, what if I'm right? Once again, I know I'm overthinking, but you never know. And that's about it from me today. Thank you for watching today's video. Please like, subscribe and share if you enjoyed it, and let me know in the comments what you think. I also wanted to thank you viewers for all the love that you have been giving to my other videos. I hope this one receives the same amount too, but that may be wishful thinking. I hope not. And if there's anything specific that you want to talk about, or well, that you want me to talk about, then please let me know in the comments below as well. What do you think of this darker analysis of the ending? Was this the happily ever after you think the princess got as well? Just let me know and we can talk. Or, you can contact me via Instagram, Goodreads, or just plain old Gmail. The information is in the description box below. So, until next time, this is Ritika signing off for today.